Hey there, and welcome to GamePoints episode 108, our weekly little get-together. We talk about the past week in gaming news. I am, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today is...
I'm David Smith. What's up?
Tonight, we have a whole bunch of stuff we need to get through. We're going to talk about Telltale's possible foreign diplomacy incident that they inadvertently triggered. We are going to get into a little bit of Shadow of Mordor and some Call of Duty leaks. But first, before we get into that, I do want to welcome everyone to the chat. If you're watching us here live at Twitch TV/GamePoints, please feel free to participate, join in, bring in whatever topics you want to the table, and we'll try to get to them whenever we can. If you're watching us on YouTube after the fact, feel free to comment down below, regardless of where you're at. Do the whole rigmarole of liking, subscribing, etc. David.
Yes, sir.
The first topic I want to get into before we get into the meat and potatoes of the rest of the show
Meatiness.
is about the recent, actually concurrent because they extended it, Star Wars Battlefront II beta.
Okay, we can talk about that.
Have you had a chance to play it yet?
No.
No, neither have I.
I have had plenty of time to get really confused on the fact that they decided to relaunch that series, and at the same time the Battlefront 2 beta comes out, the Battlefront 2 servers got turned back on.
We'll definitely get into that here in a bit.
This whole week is just a clusterfuck of Battlefront nonsense.
So, the biggest takeaway from the Battlefront 2 beta is that it apparently seems to be pay to win now. And
Sweet.
yeah,
That's the
fuck
best
that.
way to do full price games.
So, yeah, it's a pay to win $60 full price game that has season passes and loot boxes on top of all that. So, let's get into what I mean by pay to win in this case. Like many other games this year, Battlefront 2 comes with these crates, which can be bought with cold hard cash. Straight up American. And they're packed with star cards. Now, if you're familiar with Battlefront 1, you might recall what star cards were. These were these one-time use consumables that give you a powered-up ability during the game itself. Well, in Battlefront 2, these star cards also alter in-game abilities, such as damage dealt, cooldown reductions, etc., and they can be found in these crates.
Oh, perfect. How do I get them crates?
Well, you either play a shit ton of games and get doled out random gambling mechanic loot crates that might have a couple of these cards in there.
Oh.
Or, like I alluded to, you can just pay money for them. So, out the gate, you're already going to have people who have a shit ton of disposable income go, I'm buying 200 of these chests, and they're immediately going to have a bunch of these star cards out before anyone else can actually earn enough to counter them. They're already going to be overpowered, even if they're small increments. When you have someone who has a 2% extra damage buff against someone who doesn't, and they're of equal skill, guess who wins? But that's not the end-all be-all of this. There's more.
Okay, let's go.
These star cards can be leveled up.
Wait, why?
Well, it keeps you playing, that's why. The first one, like the first level of these star cards, is usually a minute bump. Once again, go back to that 2% increase. But apparently they go up to level 4. Once you hit a level 4 star card, shit gets ridiculous. There are reports of TIE bomber health, for example, increasing 40 times above the base.
Oh my god.
100% damage reduction when doing certain abilities. So I think the example was Boba Fett has like this rocket salvo he can fire. At level 1, he shoots up and you can usually blast him out of the sky. But at level 4, he is indestructible when he's doing it.
Wow.
These are
amazing.
Not minor bumps in power, which would still be inexcusable when you can pay for these cards just to get them. These are massive upgrades to character abilities. And if you think it's just limited abilities, you'll be wrong. Because when you level classes up, that shit's not based on how much time you play that class. That shit's based on how many star cards you have for that class.
Wait, so you get star cards, and
Yes.
you can use the star cards, but you have to keep star cards to level up?
I don't know if these are one-time consumer
Or is
only.
it
I
just-
think they're like
or is it just
Hearthstone cards.
Based on the... Okay, I was going to say, is it based on like the lifetime amount that you've earned?
Yes, it is. They're not one-time use this time, from what I understand. I didn't play the beta itself. I'm going off what multiple sources
So you can
and
like
people have
run
played this
your
beta.
match with a perk. Like this specific match, I have bonus TIE bomber health. This specific match, I have
Yeah.
4% bonus damage with shotguns or whatever.
Yeah, perks are a good way to say it.
All right.
So you could see where the problem comes here, right?
Yeah, that
The,
sounds
the
pretty
player
shitty.
who buys $200 worth of these chests gets a shit ton of star cards, or is immediately, instantaneously going to be more powerful than anyone else playing
Well,
the
just
game
think
just
of
trying to
the
grind them
guy
out.
that buys into the hype and pre-orders it and gets it 3 days early because that's what everybody fucking loves doing nowadays, and then spends an extra $200-300 on the game, so that at level 1 they're already stronger than everyone else, and then just dominates their way, so that when you actually start playing the game as a regular player on launch day without spending extra money, you just suck.
Yeah, you're buying power. This isn't cosmetic items. This isn't extra announcers or anything like that. I know that there are some people out there who say anything in a loot box in a full price game is fucking atrocious. I turn to, you can look at Jim Sterling for that point of view. I don't necessarily cotton to that myself, but this is beyond that. This isn't just cosmetic items. This is
This is
giving,
legitimately the thing that we complain about.
yeah, this is giving players who are willing to shell out more money a clear-cut advantage over everyone else, and it's going to imbalance the game from fucking day one.
Cool. I don't need to buy that. That's fine.
Yeah, fuck that. That's horrible. I can't believe that that no one that. How did they not see this is going to spiral out of control quickly?
Well, because the first Battlefront did so well.
Well, it did. Battlefront 1 sold very, very well. It did extremely well. The
Well,
player base
that's
was
what
fractured all to hell.
they think they're just going to get everybody to spend all the money again.
So here's the thing: when you have these kind of systems, 90% of the people playing it probably won't even buy a single loot box. That's not what they care about. And honestly, I don't think they care if 90% of the player base just stops playing. We've talked about it before. They want those whales. They want that 1%, 2%, 0.001% that will buy the game and then drop $1,000 on the game in crates. And to them, that one player is more valuable than the 100 other players who leave the game.
Well, because everybody else that already bought it, they already got that $60. So
Yeah, they're not going to get any more from them.
Yeah. So those people that stick around and keep spending money those are the ones they care about.
This is so fucked up. And you know what's really annoying is that by all accounts, Battlefront 2 isn't a great game. People
That's
who
really
even
upsetting.
hated Battlefront 1 are enjoying Battlefront 2. Except for this fucked up, it's literally pay to win. We have now
I'm really
reached,
upset.
what was that? I'm sorry.
I'm just really upset about that.
Yeah, we have now reached that level of the Apple Store, the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
We have reached that level of garbage. The race to the bottom has been won. Congratulations, EA.
I feel bad for DICE.
Yeah, you know DICE didn't want this.
Yeah, I don't think they designed this. This was just, hey, you need to put this in there. Oh, well, what if we do it this? No, you got to put it in this way.
This inherently unbalances things.
It just makes the game unplayable. And DICE already has some balance issues. I mean, I can look at what happened to Battlefield 3 eventually, or the way Battlefield 4 launched. That yeah, they have balance problems sometimes. But adding this in there means that the game is forever unbalanceable. You
Yeah.
cannot account for this. You can do nothing. I mean, I guess that's their plan. Is every gun that's base stats at the day one launch, they're not going to have to rebalance anything, because if your gun sucks, you just need to get some more of these cards.
Yeah, it's such a bad move. I can't even begin to. It's bad, but it's not necessarily going to change. And I saw this thing going around on Twitter earlier today from a couple of people who are in the industry, and they showed this article. I want to say it was from Forbes. I wish I had it in front of me to show you, but essentially EA in third quarter of 2016 made something like $3.6 billion in add-on sales. Let me see if I can find this real quick. David, why don't you fill in for time as I try to find this real fast?
I don't know what I'm supposed to fill in about, man. This is just upsetting. I actually was kind of excited for the next Battlefront game, because the first one I felt played very well. Of course, it's another DICE game, so the sound design was amazing. I just couldn't really get into it because it wasn't that meaty of a game, and I was really hopeful that Battlefront 2 could do what, well, Battlefront 2 did back
All right.
fucking 10 years ago.
I got a collection of headlines that prove that these are going to stick around, regardless of how pissed off people are about them. One from Forbes: GTA Online's $500 million in microtransactions could mean a very different GTA 6. That was last year. EA makes $1.3 billion a year on extra content. That includes things like DLC, season passes, and loot boxes. Activision Blizzard made over $3.6 billion from in-game content sales in 2016.
That's insane.
And I really want to know the percentage of players that actually buy them. Because I get the distinct feeling that a lot of people might have bought one, maybe, if it was their first time exposed to it. But I am willing to bet the bulk of those sales are made up by less than 10% of the population. Because it's the same...
It also depends on what kind of game it is. Because I know a lot of people that if they're playing a free-to-play game and they play it enough and they like it enough, they will purchase something for that game because they feel like it's earned the money.
No, Heroes of the Storm, for example.
Yeah, perfect example. But paying money for full-price games like the Overwatch effect, the Battlefront effect, etc., I know less people that do that, but there's still people that do it. Obviously, it happens all the time.
I want to say we're reaching a breaking point this year, and I don't know if it's going to go one way or another. Either everything's going to just double down and this is your new reality, or they're going to rebrand it and find something else. But right now, you have Battlefront 2, Call of Duty World War II, Shadow of Mordor, Forza 7.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm missing another one, but all these not only have loot boxes, but they also have additional microtransactions thrown in. They all have...
And they're full prices with ultimate or definitive or special editions.
They're base price 60 games, talk $60 games.
But they have like an $80 version or a $120 version or whatever.
Yeah. So let's see. Shadow of Mordor, their collector's edition, I think is $99.99. They could be $120, but let's just say $99.99. So you spend $100. If you want the extra content that's in there, because they've sliced off some extra content, that right there's a guaranteed $100 for the full game. If what the next story, I don't want to get into this. Never mind. I'm going to get into this more of a next story. I'm starting to bleed collections in here together. Either way, you're starting to see more and more major games meld all of this into one shit package.
Shit package. I like that.
Yeah. It's no longer just, hey, here is the $60 game, or you can buy the digital deluxe with extra content we felt like cutting out of the game for $80 or $100. It was either that, or it was, here's this with microtransactions, or here was this with loot boxes. But in the next month, you're going to see multiple AAA games come out with all of these combined into one package. So I guess the question is, have we reached a saturation point?
I feel like at this point that we're not even going to hit one because it keeps happening. How many pre-orders does this game have?
A lot. Battlefront's going to sell big.
Fucking huge.
But yeah.
Because, yes, we are mad. Yes, there's people in the industry that are mad. But most people, the parents that go buy this shit at Walmart for their kids, don't give two fucks.
No. And I don't even necessarily believe that. I'm willing to bet that even if 75% of their player base was pissed off about this, they wouldn't care. Because it's not about the 75%. It's not about the 80% that might actually actively hate this and not play it because of it. It's about that fucking 1% they're targeting that'll drop $1,000 on it.
I just don't. I'm very upset that everything became a phone game.
Yeah, and it happened fucking fast.
It makes the concept of buying a new game just less fun. Like I don't really want to buy games this year. I don't want to buy upcoming games. I don't want any of them. I just fucking at this point there's a saturation for the games industry as a whole. There's so much shit to play. There's so much content. My Steam backlog is 300 plus games.
And this year in particular has a lot of fucking amazing games. 2017 has been one of the best years in gaming we've had in a while.
I don't need this shit. I just don't. I have plenty of shit to play. I don't need to waste $60. buying this up front so that they can then try and nickel and dime me for another 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever the fuck they're trying to get out of me.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I'm over it.
That said, I will more than likely be buying every AAA game that comes out just because part of what I have to do is be abreast of all that stuff.
You more have to. I don't.
Yeah, correct. What you can do, David, however, is look back to the past for what the future is going to be.
We don't need to talk about Battlefront 2 because that game's trash and filled with loot boxes. What we do need to talk about is Battlefront 2 and how that game was amazing.
I do hate that
Side
naming
note,
convention.
Fuck you, EA. You stupid, stupid bastards. I'm talking about the original Star Wars Battlefront 2. You know, the one that everybody loved, the one where you could fly ships while you're actually fighting people, and it was fucking amazing, and it's the game we all wanted Battlefront to be, but then Battlefront sucked dicks in comparison. Well, luckily for us, they recently turned back on the multiplayer servers for that game, so that shit is back, and with a vengeance. If you're super into that, I would highly recommend the Star Wars, what's it called? Battlefront Conversion Pack. You can go ahead and just Google that. You should be able to find it. You can find more news about it on the Dark Side of Gaming website. But it adds 25 maps. So all the maps from the first Battlefront game, not originally featured in Battlefront 2, 5 new game modes, a whole new era, and a kind of ridiculous amount of expanded unit content to the original game. There's just way more shit. Congratulations, here's a giant Battlefront 2 patch for the original version.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
You can play it online. That shit's on Steam.
Now, I have to wonder...
Go on, play a far superior, although admittedly much worse looking game.
Yeah, but graphics only go so far, right? I mean, I'm a big fan of my games looking as beautiful as humanly possible, but at the end of the day, one of my favorite games is still FTL.
Yeah.
Has there been a platformer this year that has been as good as Super Mario World?
Like the original?
Yeah. Admittedly, Odyssey hasn't come out yet. We all remember The Order 1886, right? That game looked beautiful.
That game sucked. Well, it was also like 2 hours long.
Yeah, but even then, right? What did that game do differently besides look better that hadn't been done since the PlayStation 1 days?
What about Ori and the Blind Forest?
That game is very beautiful, but not graphically intensive.
The Wisps.
Look at Valiant Hearts. Hand-drawn, or not, I don't know if it's hand-drawn, but very cartoony in look and style, but an amazing game set in World War I. Graphics are not the end-all, be-all, and when everyone keeps trying to chase things that are going to make your computer bleed, and that's like the cutting edge of technology, stuff gets lost in the shuffle there. And then they come out and say they need to charge $100 to get the complete experience of the game, in addition to a $50 season pass, in addition to shit tons of microtransactions, and it's just not needed. And we can prove that's not needed in the fact that people are going to play fucking Star Wars Battlefront 2, not Star Wars Battlefront 2. God, I hate that naming convention. I hate it so much.
Well, dude, we can even just throw back to the fact that like the Nintendo and Super Nintendo classics are a thing that exists.
Yeah.
To show that graphics do not mean everything.
Chrono Trigger is still one of the best RPGs of all time, and still one of the best looking RPGs of all time.
And will remain to be until the end of time.
Yes. Anyways, we can't keep harping on Battlefront 2 or Star Wars and all that anymore. So let's go ahead and move on to our next topic, which is going to sound a lot like the one, which is going to sound a lot like what we just talked about, and that's Shadow of War. We're going to talk about Middle-earth Shadow of War, the legendary orc kind of not controversy that happened over the weekend, as well as its apparently grindy fourth act.
And now, the fact that it's exactly what we thought it was.
Yes. Now, reviews of Shadow of War have hit. They came out over the weekend, and it seems to be averaging in the 80s. A lot of people gave it 9s. A lot of people gave it 7s. About 80 in the middle. There were two things I want to point out that got brought up over the weekend that were kind of big. The first was in this GameStop review right here, or GameSpot review, rather. And in this review, it claims that in our experience with the game, Loot boxes purchased with in-game currency only earned us epic tier rewards, instead of paid currencies guaranteed legendaries. This is back to the loot box thing. Apparently, Shadow of War, as we know, has loot boxes, which you can get orcs in there. During this guy's playthrough, he did not encounter any legendary orcs in any of the boxes, and that made him assume that the game had none in there. This was later updated with an editor's note saying, quote, "It's possible to earn legendary rewards from loot boxes bought with in-game currency, though they occur with less frequency than epic rewards." The concerning thing about this isn't that the reviewer might not have done his job properly. I'm going to take this guy's word at face value. The scary thing is that if this reviewer actually did play through the entire game, he never once found a loot box with a legendary orc in it.
Yeah, that means the drop rate is outrageously low. Yes, it's possible that someone's going to play it and the first box they open has a legendary, but one person out of how many millions are going to hit that?
Right. So there you go right there. They're already kind of fiddling with the numbers to force you to buy some microtransactions, and the reason why this is so important deals with the second big thing to come out this weekend, the game's fourth act. Shadow of Mordor apparently ties itself up rather nicely after Act 3. And then, after you beat the final boss, quote-unquote, the game opens up and lets you run around and do stuff, kind of like most open-world games do. But there is a hidden ending at the end of Act 4, which still kind of rewards you to keep playing after the game, quote-unquote, ends. The problem is, to get that ending, you need to do a shit ton of grinding because your orcs are just not going to be powered up enough to be able to beat this ending without it. In an article from Polygon, during their review, they mentioned it a little bit. In Shadow Wars, with all other side content drained, the only thing left to do is play Fortress Defense missions and collect more orbs to help with more Fortress Defense missions. It's a gameplay loop that just repeats ad nauseum. Finding powerful orcs becomes the be-all, end-all focus of the game, and the easiest way to find powerful orcs is, cynically, to purchase them. The last bit of the game, after everything's kind of been wrapped up, is deliberately designed to be a grind fest, so it wears down the players' willpower until they eventually start fucking buying loot chests, get the legendary orcs they need to actually defend their keeps. When you run out of in-game money, you have two choices. Make a huge time investment by hunting down orcs in your game world and earning chests via vendetta missions, or spend some real money to get the more powerful orcs you need now. The entire last act of the game is a grind fest designed to get you to drop money to see the real ending. And it's... Go ahead.
It's just kind of... man. I don't know how much more angry I can be at this game, because every single thing we've heard about it since basically its announcement has just been infuriating to me. And the fact that they took, Shadow of Mordor and turned it into this for the sequel is just remarkably upsetting. But the fact that they kind of locked the final ending behind a quote-unquote paywall, I mean, I know it's not technically, but kind of is, It
Early
just takes
reports,
hours and hours and hours
right,
of grinding, of doing nothing, of just pure fucking monotony to unlock an ending is not a goddamn video game. That's not why anyone plays that shit.
Early reports from multiple sites. I know people say, oh, Polygon can't play games. So keep in mind, it's not just Polygon that's saying this. Are putting the estimate to be able to beat this fourth act without buying any orcs anywhere between 8 to 12 hours of doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. I say, fuck that. Go to YouTube and type in Shadow of War real ending.
Yeah, done. Easy.
Because you're not missing anything. All the story's been complete. All the side missions are complete.
Just grinding the same fucking mission over and over.
Yeah. So, fuck that. And it's not... It can't be anything all that mind-shattering, right? Because they tie everything up with a bow at the end of the third act. This is kind of like just an extra bonus feature out there. But they tantalize that, see the real ending, to sucker people into grinding out 8 hours or to get like 4 hours into that grind. And then they finally go, fuck this, I'm going to buy some orcs.
So it'd be basically like waiting for the stinger at the end of a Marvel movie, but
Yeah.
instead of watching the movie or having cool things, you're just watching credits for an extra 4 hours.
Yeah, or you can pay $10 to get right to the stinger.
The big question is, how long does it take to go from the start of the game to the end of Act 3?
That I don't know.
Because if this is a 10-hour game with a 12-hour fucking add-on bullshit, WB should just shut down.
Well, what drives me,
because they're gonna make a ton of money, but just goddamn guys, just give it up.
what drives me nuts is while reviews, right, where review sites are mentioning this, the scores don't seem to be effective about it. To me, if I'm playing a game, I don't care if everything wraps up. If they tell me the actual ending to the game is behind 12 hours of grindy bullshit, that means a quarter of the fucking game is unbelievably dull, and the score should reflect that. But hey, I'm not the review score should be objective kind of guy. I think they're by nature subjective. I just think that we should be seen less than, from what this sounds like, this does not sound like a 9 or 8 game. I am going to be playing through Shadow of War myself. In fact, I'll be streaming it likely later tonight, probably a couple hours after the show. And I'll have my own thoughts on this probably next week.
Well, how many reviewers do you think actually finished the game? And how many reviewers do you think finished Act 3 and went, oh, cool, good ending. Oh, I guess I can run around and do some extra stuff. Well, maybe I'll do that for 30 minutes. Okay, I kind of get an idea of what the end game content is like, and then they wrote their review.
So I can only... You're asking me a question that has a lot of conspiracy theories about it. A lot of people claim, oh, IGN gets fucking paid and they only play 30-minute reviews and anything like that. During my short time with them, I distinctively remember one situation where Jose Ortero, who was the Nintendo guy, had to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I believe, for the Wii U. He finished the game. He put 100 hours into that game, but he didn't do all the side quests. And the editorial team, the big guys, the editor-in-chief, said, no, you are not done with that game. You have to play every side mission.
Damn. All
so,
right.
Some of these guys, I know it's cute to say, oh, they don't play the games. They do. You can take... I know that's just me saying it, and you could just assume that I'm lying, but they do have some actual editorial... ethics when it comes to finishing games. I can only speak for what I saw at IGN when I was there, though. The fact that these two people at Polygon, because this was a joint review, mentioned this means they at least got that far. The fact that the GameStop review, I believe, mentions it as well, means they got that far.
Still GameSpot, but yes.
No, GameStop. I keep saying GameStop.
Yeah, they don't review shit.
Yeah,
except maybe your power-ups.
If you're a bigger site, I know people love to say they're all paid off, but I assure you they're not. We would have heard stories about it by now from people who used to work there who quit. You can't keep that many people silent under a conspiracy for that long. Everyone always points to the Jeff Gusterman thing, but the fucking Kane and Lynch scenario happened like 10 years ago.
That was that long ago? Whatever.
Yeah, I think it was like 2007, 2008. But anyways, that's a long, contrived answer to just simply say, yeah, I think most of these guys actually played all the way through.
Cool. That took way less time. That's all I was looking for.
It's just one of those questions that you can... It's one of those questions you can go really way deep on the rabbit hole for.
I didn't even mean it as a loaded question. I just meant, like, any of the smaller journals, do you think they beat it and legitimately didn't know that there was another fucking ending?
No, and I know a lot...
How apparent is it when you finish Act 3 that, hey, you should keep playing and find out the whole story?
If it's a smaller game, then we can talk about that, because I remember doing a review for a game called Galaxy, which was a fun game until you get to Chapter 5, and it says, Chapter 5, coming soon. And it just ends.
Damn.
But almost every review I read for it didn't once mention that. So if it's a smaller indie game like that, then people just
light shit on fire in a fireplace.
Little Inferno or something like that.
Yeah, it was like kind of a pseudo cutesy, kind of dumb, pointless seeming puzzle-y game that ended up having like a super dramatic ending and a fucking weird ass twist at the end because it had an ending.
Yeah, I mean, who would expect that game to have an ending?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It was a fucking like iOS game.
Anyways, David, why don't you go ahead and lead us on to our next topic here before we
Oh, well,
spend
since we're
even
talking
more
about
time
loot
on
boxes.
microtransactions.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't want to talk about microtransactions or loot boxes or anything. So let's talk about something that I guarantee probably doesn't have them. Oh, fuck. Call of Duty World War II. A massive leak came out recently on Reddit, of all places. Who knew? The info was pulled from the PC beta. Spoiler warning, if you look this up, you'll find out all kinds of shit about the game. Uh, all the map information, weapon names, perks, buff, consumables, and loot crates. That's right. World War II, Call of Duty. The only thing that's more assured of World War II of Nazis is the loot boxes. Remember the loot boxes?
Yeah, it's almost like
to
that's
drop?
been the entire theme of today's show.
Oh my god. I remember when we didn't have themes.
Don't worry, we'll get into some funner stuff later.
Anyway.
Funner stuff. More fun stuff.
God damn it. So, there's microtransactions in the game, like the Gobblegum from BO3 or the FNF cards from Infinite Warfare. They come in new zombie crates, which look like jack-in-a-boxes. Consumables in this game are not rarities, rather the amount of times you can use them is the rarity, and you can only carry 2 consumables at a time.
Either way,
So,
it's microtransactions in a $6 game, but honestly, this is something that Call of Duty's been doing for a while, so we really shouldn't be all that surprised about this one.
Also, Call of Duty kids are going to buy the new Call of Duty game. People that don't like Call of Duty aren't going to touch it. It's going to sell probably slightly less than the last one did.
I think the franchise has plateaued. Yeah, I think it's on the downswing now, but it's still going to sell a lot. That said, I'm actually really looking forward to the single player campaign on this one.
Yeah, dude, if I can... It just depends on who writes it.
Fair enough.
If they're any good.
So, David, we've done
Yes.
nothing but talk about loot boxes and microtransactions all day.
Yeah, I'm stressed, man. I don't know what to do with this.
There is one site, quote-unquote, taking a stand against them, and that is
What?
OpenCritic. Yeah, I know. That is Open... Let me, having some mouse problems here. There we go. OpenCritic. They're kind of like a Metacritic site. They're an aggregate review site where they gather all the reviews together and give you an average, an aggregate. They have came out today and said that we're going to take a stand against loot boxes. We're looking for ways to add business model information to OpenCritic. Let us know your thoughts on how we can categorize and display business model intrusiveness on a game pages in a fair and scalable way. Some of our early access include random loot boxes versus sure thing and buying direct, cosmetic versus buying power. They don't mean buying power as in like how much purchasing power a business has, but as in
Pay to win aspects.
Yeah, pay to win aspects. Other things they're looking for: exclusively paid versus can be acquired in game, prompts during gameplay versus dedicated stores, and 100% unlock completion time with no payment. I love this idea.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
What I am worried about, however, is I don't want them tipping review scales because of it. I want the information. I want it clearly presented. I want it right there so people can see all the bullshit they're doing. But I don't want OpenCritic to go, well, because it has this, we are going to lower the aggregate review score down some. That does no good. Don't go around fiddling with
You're talking about
scores of other
them like
sites.
forcefully enforcing a lower score, like them
Yeah.
not actually displaying what the aggregate is, and them saying, "Okay, this is what everybody on the internet says, but because of this, this, and this, we are actually lowering."
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think that's going to be a
I was
problem.
gonna say, dude, I fucking fully think that the scores should go down when they have bullshitty loot boxes and pay-to-win nonsense. in them,
I
but
think so
that's not what you
too.
were saying.
But that is not up to OpenCritic to decide.
Yeah, I get it.
And I don't think they're going to do that. It's just when you come out with an aggressive phrase like "take a stand," it sounds like they're about to go to war on it. It's like, I don't know if that's true, but I am totally down with right there on the splash page. It's saying, "Hey, this game contains some bullshit. Play at your own risk."
Yeah, basically, that's all I need.
Anyways, fortunately, I think that brings us to the end of the microtransaction conversations that we're going to have today. I know that took fucking 35 minutes, but let's get into some better stuff.
I can talk about something that is the most positive thing I can go into immediately after this. It's something that is actually loot box proof. Something that cannot ever have microtransactions.
I'll tell you why you're wrong here in a second.
And that's the Super Nintendo Classic. It can. I am not wrong because that is a fixed box. It is a single piece of hardware that you spent your money on that does not connect to the internet and does not have any kind of updates. So shut your whore mouth. You jerk.
Go on.
Ruining all my nonsense. The Super Nintendo Classic has been hacked, as we all knew it was, because it's the exact same internal guts that the NES Classic had. A YouTube content creator's Skullator posted a video on how to cram even more games in your Super Nintendo Classic. You can also find other write-ups on Reddit and NeoGAF and all over the fucking place. It's a pretty early version of the exploit, so it's a little convoluted, fairly complicated to get done. It will get easier as time goes on because that's what happens when shit gets hacked. As of last I checked, I think you can fit about 62 ROMs on the Super Nintendo, just with the onboard on there.
It's going to depend on what ROMs you're putting on there. Some are way bigger than others.
The most important thing is you can now finally load Chrono Trigger onto your Super Nintendo Classic because Nintendo didn't put it on there.
Which is still mind-numbing. I have Skullator. I have their YouTube page to this linked up right up here. And as you can see, it is an extremely complex way of doing it involving downloading multiple things. I highly recommend not doing this if you don't have an idea of what you're doing. You can very easily brick your system with things how they currently are displayed here. That said, if you're comfortable with ROM hacking, if you're comfortable with editing files on the computer, knock yourself out. Just, boy, be sure to back everything up, especially if it's your first time ever doing anything like this.
Yeah, but there's always that just cold, hard brick chance.
Yeah, or you could just buy a Raspberry Pi.
Or you can just buy a Raspberry Pi.
All right,
or
David.
a regular Super Nintendo. Possibly
my favorite story of last week is the fact that I get to say a sentence I never expected to ever say on this show. A video game company has started a diplomatic incident involving the United States and Russia. This sounds like the fucking plot to War Games, but it's not. So
what the fuck?
What happened last week is Telltale Games. We all know who they are. They make a bunch of excellent narrative games, but use the same engine over and over again. We know this. Last week, they released the next episode of their Batman game. And in it, well, was this picture here. Let me bring this picture up.
Whoa. Don't start any diplomatic incidents.
I'm not going to. Credit to Twitter user Bro Team Pill for bringing this up. The first picture here is from the game. Seems simple enough. Harley Quinn probably robbed a bank. You see a couple dead bodies there. But if you look at this body in the lower right, well, turns out that guy was the Russian diplomat that was shot almost a year ago in Turkey by a Islamic terrorist.
I remember that shit. That was spooky.
Yeah, this guy here, the Russian diplomat's name was Andrei Karlov, was given a press conference in Turkey, and a 22-year-old active duty police officer ran up to him shouting Allahu Akbar and then yelled out, "Don't forget Aleppo," as he gunned him down in front of a live television audience and a bunch of reporters. This man's body, this poor guy's body, was used as a stock asset in a Telltale game.
Oh my god.
How does that happen?
How do you find that? How do you find that picture?
Like, was it on some random B-roll site? There's a bunch of these sites that have, like, stock photos, and you could have... Like, how does that happen? I don't think... Or
did you just, like, Google dead guy and then, like, grab an image and load that into your game without doing any research on it whatsoever?
I want
Actually,
Telltale to tell us exactly what happened here, because I don't think there was any maliciousness involved. I don't think that they were like, oh, let's...
there were such high-quality images with this?
I don't think that they were trying to make a statement here, political or otherwise. I just think that they probably went on some generic stock photo site and saw this here. Telltale has since removed the image, so don't go trying to look up for it in the game itself. They gave out the following quote to news organizations. An update to the game has been submitted this morning that will be removing the image across all platforms. We regret this incident occurred, and we are taking appropriate action internally to ensure that we continue to maintain our high standards in production and quality assurance. Oops.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I I really want to know how that made. I want to find the person who put that in there and just go, hey, I doubt you meant anything by it, but how did you find that image? Because it could have just been Google dead body. But if you Google dead body, that's not going to be the first result you get. Here, in fact, I'll do it now. Let me Google up dead body in suit or something. Google image search, images. I know this is boring, but I need to find out. Dead body in suit. Yeah, that's not popping up in any of the first few results here, so I don't know, man. I really want to know how they found that image specifically.
I don't know. Someone forwarded it to him, I guess. I don't know. Telltale, don't stop it. Stop trying to cause diplomatic incidents with Russia. No. It's not what Batman's about.
While on the topic of politics, David, why don't you go ahead and lead us into the final story of the day?
Are we going to talk about the fact that Rick Santorum is a fucking idiot? Is that what we're getting on about?
Absolutely.
So, okay. I'm just going to start with, we are not a political show. We don't pretend to be a political show. And I have no interest of getting into any kind of political discussions.
David has no interest in getting into any kind of political discussions, and David's side of the show is not a political show.
That's fair. His dumbass can do whatever he wants. But when some motherfucker gets all up in the press and starts blaming video games for violence again in 2017, when we've already figured this shit out, they can go fuck themselves. And on a recent panel discussion on CNN's State of the Union, political commentator and former GOP presidential candidate Rick Santorum.
I like the term failed GOP presidential candidate. This motherfucker couldn't beat Donald Trump. Think about that.
Dude, neither could a lot of people. That's actually not even a good argument anymore.
My stance on that is they were all so fucking incompetent on both sides of the aisle. They let that happen.
Everybody, somehow we managed to round up just the worst batch of people. But that's irrelevant. This guy is blaming video games for violence again. He said, quote, violence in television and the video games. He says it like your mom. There's a mountain of evidence.
He does say it like your mom. Violence in television and the video games. I didn't even notice that.
Evidence about what we're doing to our young people with this video games, violent video games, and you never hear the left trying to go after Hollywood or the gaming market. It's never involved in discussion. Where is the solution? Here we are. Where's the solution? Stupid ass, dumbass idiot.
Your evidence has been debunked over and over again, you fuckwit. I'll be posting multiple links down in the description below this video so you can go take a look at it and read it for yourself. At best... Go ahead.
I just can't even get into it. Like, I understand that America's a fucked up place. We're really bad at a lot of stuff. And we are outrageously violent. But the last I checked, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Most of the violence in our country is not from the 17-year-olds that are playing Call of Duty.
No. There are two things that I want to mention. One is that when you say America's a horribly violent place, it's really not, though. Fucking violent crime has been dropping since the 90s. We are becoming a more peaceful world overall.
That is true, but most of the places that are more violent than us are the places in Africa, which is just like a giant shit show of violence.
Well, not to get political, but I would argue that just looking at France alone and the amount of terror attacks have happened there probably are far worse.
Literally unplug my computer from the internet if you keep talking.
What really drives me nuts about this is this motherfucker is using a horrible tragedy in Las Vegas to fucking push the idea that video games are bad.
Thank you. That's all I'm trying to say. This guy's an
idiot.
Fuck
you. And I'm part of your fucking party. I'm a registered fucking Republican, and I'm telling you to kiss my ass. God damn, I hate this fucking neo-Puritan bullshit.
Read a book.
Rock music is making people do drugs, David.
No, fucking depression and stupid old white guys is making people do drugs.
The printing press is turning people from the light of God.
Wait, didn't the printing press help bring the light of God to all kinds of countries?
Don't you use your fucking doublespeak with me, heretic.
and then make all those countries hella violent.
The way Elvis Presley gyrates his hips is making men rape women. God damn, I fucking hate this blame the culture for our moral decay, I guess he thinks it is, even though that... Anyways, Rick Santorum's a fucking moron. I absolutely hate it.
Dude, I remember I saw a quote from an old-ass book recently that made me laugh, that they can kind of sum this up about how just people are dumb all the time. And it was a complaint about, with the rise of parchment, this is like fucking early, like late 1800s or whenever the hell this was.
Parchment's been around for a very long time.
I don't fucking know. Like,
I just want you to know that parchment existed in ancient Egypt.
No, yeah. Like more traditional, like lined paper in a school setting. How's that? Like mass-printed notebooks or whatever. There was this fucking like note from a teacher complaining that the students weren't learning properly how to write on the marker boards, like the actual old school chalkboards, because they're too busy writing on paper. And what the fuck are they going to do when the paper runs out? Just kind of proving that every single time a new thing happens, everybody that was using the old thing gets really pissed about it. And
YouTube is corrupting the young, said the television journalists, who they themselves are having to defend themselves from the radio journalists who said television is corrupting the young.
Who had to defend themselves from dudes on horses that were saying radio is corrupting the young.
I would say from the Pulitzer and Hearsts of the world who are running the giant newsprint things. But yeah, same idea.
Yeah, dude. Everything ruins everything, and more importantly, Rick Santorum's an idiot. Let's talk about different stuff. I'm over this.
Yeah, fuck all this. This whole show has been nothing but negative.
Yeah, dude, this show kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch it.
No, I barely watch it.
Spoiler alert. This episode's highly depressing. But if you're trying to get over that depression, there's some new video games coming out this week that you can play that might help out. I don't know if the first one will do it, but let's talk about it anyway. Coming out this week, Middle-earth: Shadow of War. PC, PS4, Xbox One. Do we have any reports yet that the PC version is unplayable or buggy as shit?
No, I actually played the PC version for about 2 hours today. I do run... Here's something that was weird. I run a dual monitor setup, and it wouldn't let me pick monitors.
It probably automatically defaults to whatever monitor your computer identifies as monitor 1. The Fortnite Battle Royale beta has the same issue.
You would think that's the case, but it was slapping it on monitor 2 for me.
Oh, well, then I don't know what the fuck.
So it was weird, and it wouldn't let me switch. So I had to do some weird shenaniganery for that. But in the 2 hours that I played, the game ran perfectly fine. I was able... Wow. I had a stable over 60 frames a second. Keep it in mind, I do have an i7 1080 GTX and 32 megabytes of RAM. Or 32 gigs of RAM, rather. Megabytes of RAM.
No, dude, megabytes. Running that old school.
The game seems fine so far, and I'm running it at max settings.
Sounds fun.
But I am only an hour and a half into it, so who knows if things get weird.
Well, that game's out. If you want to see how long you can enjoy it without loot boxes, be my guest.
Oh, I will say, once I get into the menu, the bottom half of the menu is all loot box related.
Is it intrusive?
The bottom half of the menu has ads saying, go here to buy this.
Nice. Are there people that run up to you in, like, towns that say, hey, you should go buy some loot boxes?
Not yet.
Power up.
I think the most egregious example of that was in Dragon Age, where in one of your party camps was an actual guy that took you right to the store.
That's funny. Okay, so other than that, if you don't want to play a new game, let's play an old game. Age of Empires Definitive Edition comes out this week on PC. The fucking old-ass RTS that came out 20-something years ago is back in a definitive form. It has all the official release content with modernized gameplay, new visuals, bunch of new features. 40 hours in the updated campaign, new narration, pacing, 8-player online, 4K visuals, yada yada, all kinds of shit. But the most important part of this new release, it is only available on the Windows Store.
Fuck that.
So no,
Immediately
I
not
am
buy.
not buying it.
I guess my only question about this Age of Empires re-release is why?
Because re-releasing is cool.
But why this? Why?
Because if 8 people buy it and they spent $12 to do it, it's worth.
I guess, maybe. It just seems so out of place.
I just feel like for some of these revitalization... I can't say words. For these revived franchises, I guess, that are coming back with like an HD remake, if it's easy enough to do, that like one dude hitting a computer for a day or two can shit something out, then why not?
I don't want to necessarily dismiss the developer's skills in recreating this, though. There could have been way more than that involved. I just flat out don't know enough about development to just say, oh, they just shit it out. It could have taken a lot of work to do it.
It could have. I have literally no idea. I'm just saying, like, if they're just slapping some new textures on, maybe that's an easy process. I'm not in game development. I could be talking on my ass. I could be an idiot. But I feel like doing this is still easier than building a whole new game from the ground up on a new engine or on a modern.
Yeah, that's fine, but why? Like, was there a clamoring to have this?
Because
it's even more confusing when the RTS is, for them all intents and purposes, a dead genre. Like, the only major one I can think of is StarCraft 2, and that's been out for years now.
Okay, well, if we're...
I just don't get it. I mean, I don't expect an answer. I just don't get it.
Okay, well, it's out.
All right.
So you people that want to buy it, that prove this guy wrong, go for it. Also coming out this week, a Oculus Rift game called Arctica 1.1. That's a weird fucking name. But this is a, well, obviously first-person VR game from the creators of the Metro franchise.
With that name, I wonder if it's a spin-off.
It does appear to be a spin-off. It's very horror Russian subway looking. Looks good and proper spooky. It's a highly immersive, action-packed, first-person shooter designed exclusively for the Oculus Touch. So it's about a century in the future. The world's got a new ice age in the aftermath of the silent apocalypse. People can only really live in the equator, like, because it's still kind of warm, and there's pockets of humanity all over the place, hanging on to existence in the research-rich territories in the north and south. And you are basically in charge of protecting the colony from raiders, marauders, and some scary-ass mutated shit. So you just work to protect it. The big thing is this builds on a new version of their rendering engine for, I don't know if it's like some offshoot of Unity or whatever the hell makes these Oculus games. But it's supposed to be one of the best-looking VR games yet. So if you are the proud owner of an Oculus system and you are looking for a new VR game to play, this is probably your best bet because there's not a whole lot of stuff coming out.
Hey, they're getting cheap. A quick look at Arctica 1, just the screenshots. The tech level looks too advanced to be a Metro game, so I highly doubt it's set in the same universe.
It's got a lot of the feeling, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's post-apocalyptic, shit's horrible, don't go outside.
Yeah. Maybe it's not set in the same universe, but it's got the feeling brought into it.
Right.
I like. I'm down with that.
No, for sure.
Also coming out this week, Raid World War II, a game that came out on Steam, I think, last week or the week before. It's a 4-player co-op shooter set in World War II. Basically, you're just playing with friends to kill the Nazis, since Call of Duty World War II is not out.
I know
yet.
absolutely nothing about this game, but my quick foray into looking at it reminded me of like a Payday set in World War II. I don't know if that's true or not. Correct me if I'm wrong. My quick dime store analysis of it made me think that.
That sounds fun as shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this game is that, but it just looked like it. I could be wrong.
Also, potentially coming out this week, I swear I said this last episode, so I apologize if I was early or if I'm late now. I don't know when the hell this game comes out, but Raiden 5, if it wasn't out already, is out now for PS4.
I think it came out on PC last week. I could be wrong on that.
The PS4 edition should be launching this week then. This is the very classic shoot 'em up, flying planes, shooting up, kind of game. 2-player offline co-op if you want to play it. The game includes the original Raiden 5 soundtrack. There's new ship damage systems, so you don't use lives anymore. You actually have a health bar, so you can take damage and keep fighting. There's different ships with defense, mobility, and sub-weapon abilities. You have new attacks. It's kind of like a little remodel, but mostly it's the same game, and it is, again, one of the classic shoot-em-ups of yesteryear. If you never played the Raiden games and you like flying around and shooting things and dodging incoming bullets, I would highly recommend it because it was good when I was a kid. I'm assuming it's good now. Lastly, coming out this week, The Evil Within 2. For those people looking for spooky things this October. PC, PS4, Xbox One. This is the sequel to The Evil Within 1, obviously. It has multiple difficulty modes. The player plays... I don't know if this is the same character, Sebastian.
Yeah, it's Sebastian Castellano or something like that.
Yeah, and you have to go into the world of Union to rescue your daughter, Lily. There's a casual difficulty, which the producer actually recommended. Survival and Nightmare. The maps are larger, and there's actually more ways to make it through the level in this game. So they kind of encourage more player experimentation.
So The Evil Within 1.
Yes. I was going to say just more nonsense. There's a new item called the Communicator, which helps highlight objectives, researchers, and enemies. You can learn more about the environment and what happened before with this. You can completely explore the map, side objectives, look for resources. You can fight enemies with guns, with stealth, however you want to do it. And there's a whole giant crafting system in the game. That's all I got.
So The Evil Within 1 was good. The boss fights were trash, like just complete garbage. But the game itself was all right. It's done by the guy who made Resident Evil 4. I think his name's like Shinji Mikami or something like that.
You are correct.
That's what I thought. And it plays just like Resident Evil 4 for all the good and bad that goes along with that. The control scheme does feel kind of dated.
Leon!
Resident Evil Within 2 does look kind of cool. The plot is very reminiscent to the Cell.
Resident Evil Within 2.
The Evil Within 2 does look kind of cool. The plot to the first one was a lot like the Cell. You were bouncing around some serial killer's mind. So things would shift and change according to whatever the guy wanted it to, whatever the antagonist wanted it to be at the time. The Evil Within 2 looks to be building upon that. Surprised they made a sequel to it, but I'm looking forward to playing it.
Yeah, looks cool. And that's about all I could find. So
all right.
If there's anything else coming out this week, I didn't talk about it.
Fair enough. We are starting to get into the midst of silly season, so there's going to be a whole bunch of shit coming out starting this week.
And there's also going to be small dry spots where smaller games don't dare launch near the bigger ones.
So this has been GamePoints episode 108, because I think we've wrapped things up here somewhat efficiently. I know we spent most of this time talking about microtransactions and loot boxes. It's just every single story that came out over the past few days has been nothing but that.
There's been a lot to complain about this week. Other than that, it's been pretty slow. So
I'm hoping next week will be a little bit more of an interesting show, but we just need to talk on all that. If you do want to join us next week for next show, please tune here at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at twitch.tv/GamePoints. We are audience interactive, so please feel free to chat away with any topics or questions you might want to bring to the table. If you can't join us live, tune into our YouTube page. Just type in GamePoints one word, and we should pop right up, and you can watch this or any previous shows that you might have missed. Regardless of where you're watching us at, feel free to like, subscribe, dislike, comment, whatever you want to do. Just be involved, man. I want to reach out. I want to get your ideas. I want to get your opinions. I want to feel what other people are feeling on this stuff. Kind of branch out of my own little self-contained world, which admittedly is very biased towards some things. If you want to follow the show, you can do so at GamePoints PC over on Twitter. If you want to follow us individually, you can follow me at CapitalistPig21, or you can follow Davis there at Palchef_Satori. Without further ado, this has been GamePoints episode 108, and until next Monday, we're out of here.
Fuck Rick Santorum.